Hey guys, welcome to Shelf Byte, a companion series of the Shelf Addiction podcast. I'm your host, Tamara, and I will be feeding your shelf addiction by sharing my bite-sized book and audiobook reviews and more. In 15 minutes or less, you'll know my opinion on if you should be saving space on your coveted bookshelf by adding this to your collection, or if you should borrow it or pass on reading it altogether. Let's begin. Today I'm reviewing The Ferryman, written by Justin Cronin, released May 2nd, 2023 by Random House Audio. I have the audiobook version today, and that was narrated by Scott Brick and Suzanne Elise Freeman. The audiobook unabridged is 19 hours and 55 minutes. Big shout out to Random House Audio for allowing me to download the audiobook. In case you're unfamiliar with the book, I'll give a really quick high-level synopsis, and then I'll jump into my thoughts. This story takes place mostly on the island of Prospera. It's kind of a mysterious island, and it is founded by a genius that's known as the designer. And this hidden island is basically being hidden from like the outside world. It's supposedly a paradise, a utopia. You know, citizens live long, joyful lives, and, you know, they meet their significant others and their families again and again as they get new iterations of themselves. They retire when this little thing in their arm, I guess it's a health monitor for lack of a better term, is on their arm, and when it reads less than 10%, they are sent to retire. They retire themselves, they get on a ferry ride, and they go to an island to just be refurbished into a younger version, and they restart a new life. And our main character, Proctor Bennett, is the ferryman. He is the highest sitting ferryman in his group. He works for the Department of Social Contracts, and he has his own gentle way of, I guess the synopsis said, shepherding people through the retirement process. And, you know, all seems good in the world, except for the fact that Proctor is having dreams, and he has since he was a young boy when he came back on a fresh new start. And those dreams seem to be coming back. And during those dreams, he doesn't really remember what he's doing. He's sleepwalking and doing other things. But then one day, he gets a message that his father is retiring, and he has not spoken to his father since his mother died. And so he goes to help him retire, make the ferry to the island. And while they're on their way, he gives some disturbing and interesting words. He utters a message to him, and other people hear the message. And before you know it, people are questioning Proctor about the message, questioning other people that were around at the time about the message, and people just kind of start disappearing. So not only is that going on, but it seems like there is a resistance group also working against this utopia of Prospera, and they're known as Arrivalist, and they are trying to start a revolution. But a revolution about what? A revolution against what? So this whole story is essentially uncovering the truth behind Prospera. I originally picked up The Ferryman because I absolutely adored the Passage series by Justin Cronin. And I recommend this thing over and over and over again to many different people for a lot of reasons. This trilogy is just phenomenal. So that is what motivated me to pick up The Ferryman. And The Ferryman is great. You know, it's got its own vibe. It's got its own unique thing going on. And I just want to caution before I get into the reasons of why I like or dislike it. I just want to say that if you're looking for another version of The Passage, this is not it. This is not it. This is very different. It's very cerebral. It's very complicated for a little while. And of course, it has all of the things that we enjoy about Justin Cronin's writing, which is his descriptions. He dives into the characters, and so we kind of know people's motivations and how they're feeling, and we know the environment, and we can visually see it. All those things are present in The Ferryman, but to be fair, on the flip side, it's very hard to understand what's going on at first. I was very confused in the first 30% of this book, along with the main character. The main character himself is very confused as Proctor is going along trying to figure out what is happening after his father retires. He's very confused. He doesn't know what's happening, why it's happening. And before you know it, his little health detector has said it's time for him to retire, and he is flipping out about it. He essentially knows he's being lied to and gaslit. He knows that he's not feeling he's not feeling bad, and he's got all these different things going on. And alongside this, he meets this young girl by the beach, and he taught her to swim, and he has these paternal feelings toward her, and he can't understand why exactly. So there's that relationship. There's the confusion with his father and this confusion about his own health, the situation with his wife that he likes and doesn't like, the situation with his friend that is also his doctor that he doesn't trust for some reason or another. And, then there's this whole rebellion. So there's a lot of things going on, which is not unusual. Again, it's very familiar for, readers of Justin Cronin to see a lot of characters, right? So that's not unusual. But the vibe is different. It doesn't read as smoothly. And if you're okay with it taking a long time to figure out what's what, then this would be okay for you. So from my point of view, the story slowly but surely gets better. If you can get past the prologue and the first several chapters, like 30-ish%, things get better. Things start moving at a faster pace, and things start connecting. And especially at the end, we really have a tell not show version of things. So really quickly at the end, things are unloaded in this dialogue explaining what has been happening to Proctor and his wife and everyone else on Prospera. And so the book was long enough. Don't get me wrong. It didn't need to be any longer, but I think I would have liked some clues that were more obvious or easier to catch to figure out what was going on, because it was kind of jumbled. And at the end, you just have this mass info dump of this is what's going on and this is what the reality is. So before I give my rating, I'm going to talk about the narrators. As I did have this on an audiobook, I obviously want to discuss the narrators. Again, they are Scott Brick and Suzanne Elise Freeman. Scott Brick is spectacular. Let me tell you, he is an excellent audiobook narrator. He narrated all of the Passage trilogy, and he did a good job with this as well. I think his voice added to the story, and I think it even improved the story. Hearing his voice kind of kept me focused on what I was listening to. So I think if I were reading this instead of listening, I'm not sure how long it would have taken me, to be honest. But because of his excellent narration, I think that helped me out. And also with Suzanne Elise Freeman, she's good as well. I'm not as familiar with her as I am with Scott Brick, but her parts were enjoyable. I have no issues. I was listening to this at 1.75 speed, and because I wanted to finish a little faster, I bumped it up to 2x, and I had no problem listening at 2x. So if you like audiobooks and you enjoy reading at a faster clip, this is totally possible. You won't feel like they are sounding like mice or whatever. Very good. But on the flip side, it was long, guys, 19 hours and 55 minutes. That's almost 20 hours of listening. And even when I cut that down, when I start listening at 2x, that's half that time. And that was still a long story, especially with such a slow start. So that's it. Let's rate it. Okay. So I would rate the Ferryman a 3 out of 5 stars. And for me, 3 stars is a good rating. If you've been around, you've heard my reviews before, then you already know I am stickler with the stars. And if you are new here, then you're about to find out. I'm a very hard rater. I give things a 5. I gave the Passage trilogy a 5. It takes a lot for me to give a 5 and a 4, but a 3 means it was good, right? I didn't dislike it. I didn't love it. It was good. So would I recommend this? These are the parameters that I would recommend the Ferryman. If you are a die-hard Justin Cronin fan, check out the Ferryman. If you are looking for more vibes similar or in the realm of the passage, don't read the book. It's very different. But I wouldn't buy it from my bookshelf. Bookshelf space is limited, right? I wouldn't do that. But I would borrow it from my library or from a friend. If you have the extra cash, maybe put it on ebook. Definitely save your shelves for another book. If you are brand spanking new to Justin Cronin and you are interested or intrigued by what I'm saying about the passage, then I recommend that you read the passage instead of the Ferryman. So with that said, I'm just going to end things there. It was a good read. I enjoyed it for what it was. Adjust your expectations and you'll enjoy it as well. I definitely recommend the audiobook. Chef's Kiss, the audiobook narrators were amazing. If you've read The Ferryman and you'd like to give your 2 cents on the matter, let me know. Leave a comment. Tweet at me, message me on Instagram, comment on YouTube, reach out and let me know your thoughts. If you're thinking, Tamara, what are you saying? This book was the best thing since sliced bread. I want to know why. Let's talk about it. Let's end things there. Thanks for listening to today's Shelf Bite. I'll see you in the next one. Take care of yourselves. Happy reading. Bye, guys. If you enjoyed today's episode and would like to show your support, there are a few things you can do. Head on over to Apple Podcasts and leave a positive 5-star review, or like this episode on your favorite podcast player. It seems so simple, but it really helps me out. You can share this podcast with other book nerd friends or on your favorite social media space. You can also join the Shelf Addiction Patreon family. For as little as $2 a month, you will help us produce even more awesome content for your ears. You can also consider joining the Shelf Addiction official Facebook group, where we talk all things bookish and more in a safe space. The Shelf Addiction podcast is a part of the Nerdy Maven network. You can also reach us via email at info@shelfaddiction.com. Thank you for listening.